Okay, so we've got quite a few different types of businesses in the room, but what I really wanted to do is just really talk about how we can get found more on ChatGPT now and in the future. The world is changing quite quickly in terms of how people are searching online, and you're all clients of ours. We want to stay on top of this to make sure we get you found. But I think there's stuff here that maybe is of interest to you that you might think about wanting to implement as well. So just, throwing a few ideas out there, really. Okay, so where do you stand on your use of AI tools? So, I mean, it's predominantly ChatGPT. Can you do you use these tools at all? Never, rarely, daily, weekly? Anyone?
I probably use it daily, and it can be for the most random things. Like I'm involved in our Christmas party quiz, so I've been doing, find me a quiz and things like that. Or it could be for a cooking thing, or it could be for travel, or it could be for work. I think it's just so varied.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So not necessarily just for search. It could be like productivity. Or,
yeah. We had to do some research, did some competitors. It helped us kickstart some competitor research, for example. So my colleague did it, and then I took it from there. So I think it's one of those tools that as long as you use it properly, it's actually going to facilitate you. It's a bit like using I don't know, Outlook almost. It's like a tool, but you've got to learn to use it properly. There's one thing I found with the quiz that I was looking at this morning. It's gone like headlines in 2025. I was like, no, I know that's wrong. That was 2024. So I called them out on 3 questions already. So again, you've got to be careful.
Yeah. Okay. Was there stuff on chat there, Sam?
Yeah. So Sue and Sharon both say that they use it daily.
Yeah.
I'm probably daily now, but and getting, I would say, exponentially increasing my frequency of use. Just kind of just using the way I would have used Google or something, but probably realizing more and more that it's worth using it for all sorts of tips and advice and all sorts of things. Not even so much for business, just anything really.
Yeah. Okay.
Just for, what's a good way of doing this, or, something I'm maybe not sure about how you do something, and I'm asking, about things, and just advice and tips.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's moving fast very quickly. So, the people, even since February this year, so less than a year, the daily usage of people has doubled, right? And even the people that say, no, never going to use it, back in February, that was 28%. That's dropped down to 16%. So I think it's really fast adoption going on here.
Well, it's also being pushed to you, isn't it? Normal Google searches are now being presented as with AI options and all that.
That's right.
So it's pretty hard to it's pretty hard to maintain a passive, resistance to it.
To get away from it. Yeah, absolutely. So we as a team went to an SEO conference back in October, and this was lots of SEOs like us, 3,000, 4,000 people over 2 days, learning our craft, which is SEO. Lots of geeks trying to not make eye contact is probably the stereotype, but it's a little bit like that. But the T-shirt that everyone got was this, and it was literally RIP clicks. And this is literally referring to the fact that for years and years and years, Google you would write content for Google, right? You would write it on your blog. You publish that. You did that all for free, And the deal was that in exchange, Google would rank that content and you would get clicks back to your website. And of course, there's a big shift, and we're seeing that across all our client reports, and globally, is just ChatGPT is not returning the favor. You often get all the answers you need in ChatGPT or Google Gemini, or I think, Sue, you mentioned Grok there. The clicks are just reducing down so much more. So it's a challenge when you need to get people to your website for you to get an inquiry, right? Or someone to pick up the phone, for example. So I really wanted to look. I'm talking ChatGPT because it's the predominant player, but I'm really just talking about any of these AI tools. I want to look at, should we just pack up now? What's the threat? What's the upside in terms of opportunity, and look at practical, real steps we can take now and in the near future. Really, that's really the structure. If you've got any questions at all, please just shout out or chuck stuff in the chat. It's we're a small, tight group. Yeah, that makes it more interesting as well. Okay, but let's look at the threat. Are we doomed? It's again moving really fast. So Google, for years and years and years, has had a monopoly on search, right? And if you look at informational searches, so those searches, if you're a marketeer, you call them at the top of your funnel when you're kind of just researching for ideas, or where's the best place to go on holiday next year, or I'm thinking about dental implants, what sort of things should I be thinking about, all that sort of stuff. Back in February, Google had 73% of those, and literally in less than probably 8 or what's the difference? 5 months, they've lost say 6% of that. Where has that 6% gone? ChatGPT, all right? So ChatGPT in less than 5 or 6 months has tripled its search share. It's quite mind-boggling, actually. So we've looked at this. Clearly, the adoption of AI tools is rapidly gaining pace in terms of the use of that. Mark, you touched on the fact that maybe it's being pushed down our throats a little bit. We can't get away from it. But that obviously, whether you will like it or not, that's obviously driving that adoption. When we talk about AI, or we're seeing LLMs, so large language models, what you're seeing is ChatGPT is the dominant player at the moment with around 70%, okay? And then there are others. There's Google Gemini, there's Copilot, which is obviously built into Microsoft Word and Excel and all that sort of stuff. Perplexity, Claude, I think you mentioned Grok, there are others, right? But we're really talking about ChatGPT mainly. And this stat came out that said, this is where Google is at the moment in terms of the number of searches on Google. And ChatGPT is growing at something like 13% month on month. It's quite mind-boggling. Wouldn't we all like to have a business that grew at 13% month on month? If they kept that momentum and that growth rate, they would, in less than 4 years, they would be at the same level as Google. All right. Now, there's a big question: can any business or enterprise increase in size 13% month on month every month for 4 years? But it just gets you thinking a little bit about that, right? And we're not just talking about ChatGPT. Mark, again, you mentioned this. When you go on Google, you've got this AI overview, right? And that affects the traffic to websites because it serves up the answer and it pushes what was higher up on Google, the list of websites, further down, okay? And as well as this, you've now got AI mode. So you can switch into AI mode on Google. It's one of the options at the top you can't see here. And it'll be the same story. Websites are cited or referenced, but it's much less obvious, right? You're going to get less click-throughs. And then there's all sorts of stats coming out of this. But if we look in the organic space, the natural space, which is what we're talking about, is year on year, because of that AI overview we just looked at and the way it knocks down the normal search result, clicks are down 65% year on year, right? Down 65% if you're not citated in one of these, all right? But you think, oh, that's okay. If I can get cited here, if I can get referenced, that should be all right. No. Even with a link, it's down 49%. And this one was, there are queries out there where there is no AI overview, all right? Doesn't show. Even with that, you're down 46%. And that can have a lot to do with just Google is making their ads much more prominent. They're pushing the organic listing further and further down. You know, how much scrolling do you have to do on a Google search before you get to what is called the natural organic result? It's all these arrows are down, right? So what I find quite interesting is it hits different industries in different ways, this AI overview. So right at the top there, you've got 54% of searches, if you're in the B2B sort of IT tech space, are going to have AI overviews, right? If you're in the travel business, about 31%, so about a third, okay? For now, if you're fairly protected, if you're more in the local space. So for example, if you do a search for like something like dentist near me, you've got the sponsored results here, the ads, and then you've got the natural here. Why would Google put an AI overview for a search like this, right? It's clear that someone is just looking for somebody to call and hopefully book an appointment. You don't really need information about dentists or things like that. So we see still an opportunity for targeting searches that don't have AI overview, just because we can still hopefully get more traffic coming to the website. I think another one where it will be something like garden rooms near me, okay? So again, people are looking for someone to install a garden room on their property. Why would you have an AI overview? They're clearly looking for somebody to call up and get a quote, right? So why would you do this? This is a search for where we're based in Fleet, Hampshire, and it changes. So there are glimmers there, but it's still, yeah, you can just see the threats going on here. So overall, generally, you know, ChatGPT is just sending, even while during its short life, it's sending less and less traffic through to the websites that provide the information. Okay, that's the trend. So if that keeps going on that curve, you know, there's some people in the industry saying, well, why bother with a web? What are you doing wasting your time creating a website, creating content, when it's literally just sat there and then all the content is taken by ChatGPT and Google and the like, and you don't get anything back for it. All right. So that's, you know, those are probably the glass half empty people. But you can see why they're saying it's that return on investment that we used to get is becoming less and less. And the other problem for us is, at the moment, we send you reports every month, and you get to see for a particular keyword, say business phone systems, we can tell you what you rank on Google for, you know, and that's really important for you as a client to understand, are we moving in the right direction, all right? Are there problems we need to talk about? But it's also really useful information for us, because we need that data to then go, right, what do we need to improve further? And this sort of data comes from Google Search Console, which some of you are familiar with, and we put that into the report that Sam sends you every month, right? ChatGPT is not going to give us that information. It is a black box. It is a sealed unit. And so how do you even measure success on ChatGPT when they're just not going to tell us what are the searches, the prompts that people put in, right? There's also another question around this, that even if you saw that data, would it make any sense? Because people use ChatGPT in quite a different way to how they use Google. You might be quite short and brief on Google, but think about how you use ChatGPT or Grok or whatever. You know, you're often asking it quite long questions. They're like conversations where you then go back to it. So if we even got that data out, it'll be so long, would we be able to kind of pull trends out of it even to then act on? And then often in this space, if in doubt or the search engine optimization isn't working, a strategy normally is then, well, let's just pay for some Google ads, right? Because Google ads will at least get us at the top of Google. But on ChatGPT, Sam Altman is saying, actually, I really don't want ads on this platform. So it doesn't really at the moment seem like a path where we'll be able to advertise directly on these platforms. That may change. I think Sam Altman, the shareholders, are starting to say, well, we're investing all this billions of pounds. We need to see some more income coming in. But at the moment, he's pushing back on that. The other thing we're finding is ChatGPT is really favoring the big brands. I don't know if you've noticed this, but what we're finding is the research is showing really large, well-known brands are getting listed a lot more on ChatGPT than they are on the Google search result. And of course, as smaller businesses, that feels like there's a bias against us, you know, and that is something that is a big challenge, right? How do we get around that? So that's the doom and gloom. It's changed a lot even over the last year. So I just want to go through what the opportunity is. So conversion rates. So we are seeing a massive reduction on people actually getting to your website from ChatGPT. But what we're seeing, and the research is showing, is once people get to your website, whereas before they come to your website, then do some research, and then maybe then get in touch, because they've done all that research on ChatGPT, by the time they come through to your website, they're ready to buy, or they're ready to get in touch or book an appointment or whatever they're doing. So although we're getting much less traffic to the site, we're finding that the conversion rates are much, much higher. And the other thing to bear in mind is the level of competition, because when ChatGPT isn't like Google, where you're, you know, Google page one, you're one of 10 listings, okay? So you're potentially, someone has a choice of clicking on you or 9 others. With ChatGPT, sometimes you're the only link they'll click on for more information, or it may be like 2 or 3 others. So actually the level of competition is a lot less. It's just quite a different dynamic, I suppose. The other thing is I don't know, we don't know what to call it in industry. There's GEO, which is generative engine optimization. There's AIO, which I prefer more. But ultimately, you know, we've been, the SEO techniques that we've been applying to your sites, 80% of that applies to AIO. It's not something completely new and out of the box. 80% of it is the same, but there's a 20% that maybe we need to focus on more, that's either new or we just need to change some of those techniques. I think that's what we're starting to see. The other thing that I hadn't realized until we went to Brian SEO is when you do a search on ChatGPT, only just over half of the time will it use its own database, its GPT database, right? And actually, just under half of the time, when you do that search, ChatGPT will go, oh, I don't have the freshest information on that. I'm going to go out and do a Bing search or a Google search. So for example of that would be, for example, if someone is searching for something that is very topical, so it could be something to do with, I don't know, peace talks for Ukraine, right? Which is very a fast-moving kind of area. The database that ChatGPT uses is kind of fixed, and so for up-to-date information, ChatGPT will actually go out and use Google and use the Google search results, or use Bing. And so that therefore means that if we're already getting found on Google, there's a good chance for these types of searches will also get found on ChatGPT. So some of the cynics are saying, well, does that make ChatGPT, it's just Google, but with a wrapper on, right? Because half the time it's using Google or using Bing. So that was quite good. The other thing is when people use ChatGPT for local searches, so we've just looked at that search around, say, garden rooms, you know, dentists, Jane, there's local searches for you, right? Town planning, all that sort of stuff, right? ChatGPT needs to get really good quality local data, and it doesn't have it at the moment, okay? So where's the best source of that on the internet? Well, it's actually Google Business Profile. It's, you know, if you do a search for, say, dentist near me, it's taking your Google Business Profile listing here because it's verified by you. There are photos on there that you've put on, that your customers have put on. There's reviews. There's nothing out there that can touch this for authenticity, really. You know, things like Apple Maps is just not at the level. You know, billions of pounds have been put into Google Business Profile, Google Maps, Street View, all this sort of stuff. And so again, it goes back to the same theme that actually, if you're strong on Google Maps, you're going to get found on ChatGPT. Okay. Any questions on that before I go to the next section?
No.
Okay. So let's look at what we can do now. Okay. So quite quickly, there are some quick wins. So the first one is this thing called a LLMS. I can't say that after a couple of beers, but I can now. Okay. So an LLMS text file, right? And all this is, I'll show you one here. Let's have a look one now. Yeah, all it is a very simple text file that's put on, you know, in the root of a website, and it just helps these models understand the content of your website and where it is. I don't know why it doesn't just use a sitemap. It looks very similar to a sitemap, but just a lot messier. So for all our clients that are on WordPress, we've been installing that. So that straight away should hopefully help them understand the content on your website and increase the chance of you getting found on ChatGPT.
Good.
Yeah.
Is that the rank math thing?
It's an option within Rank Math, and also there's another SEO plugin called Yoast.
I know Yoast, yeah.
And it's a tick box thing. So yeah, we've done that on your website. So yeah, okay. So write content like a press release. Okay, so what we're really talking about here is content for a while has had to be kind of quite fairly structured with headers and subheaders, and I don't think there's anything really new in that. So, you know, for you either write your content yourself or we write content for you. You know, a blog post would have a title, it'd be broken up into paragraphs, you know, you'd have headers, you'd have images, things like this. What we're seeing with ChatGPT is we need to break it up even more so for it to understand But more importantly, we kind of need to put a summary in. So some people are calling this a summary right at the start, because people are talking about the fact that you almost have to make your content snippable. So it's in nice, easy to digest snippets for ChatGPT, and a summary at the top. Or I've seen some people go TLDR, which is too long, didn't read. And you put the summary at the top. So this is kind of a before and after. We've got a blog post for our client Stone and Chrome here, and you can see the kind of format. This isn't that different, but we've got a summary at the top. And then Becky, who wrote this, has really gone to town. Some of the headers are more descriptive. Google seems to like that, okay? Lots of bullet points. We've even gone for a 10. And there's no surprises here that ChatGPT has helped to write this content as well. So I think that summary is really, really important. I think Becky doesn't particularly like it, as she feels that part of writing a blog post is like telling a story. And it's almost like reading a book, and the first thing you read in a book is the last page, because it tells you what's going to happen. But it's certainly what I think these tools, these AI tools, seem to want to like. So
can I ask a question, Jeff? Because
yeah, of course.
I was reading up on this. I think it was after I saw you guys last week, and I was just doing some research about more like thought, which is more appropriate for perhaps our business, but the thought leadership stuff and the white paper stuff. And because we've done roundtables and strong themes have come out, I was using that because it had opinion, and we were coming off the fence. And I read that ChatGPT really liked things like that rather than just like fact sheet, because it gave, you know, for example, if you're experiencing difficulties getting planning permission, it seems to be a bit of a postcode lottery, and it was just kind of like real thoughts and challenges and solutions. Do you believe that to be the case?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. How you summarize that right at the top?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because I've written, since we did our round table, I've written 2 like that, because they are opinion pieces and it's interesting, but I don't want to do it if it's going to be a waste of time.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a sort of kind of daft question?
No, there's no dark question mark.
Oh, there are. Wait for it. Don't get me started. Using the word summary before the paragraph at the top. Obviously, you would then hope it'll be a good summary. But is the very use of that word summary already telling ChatGPT, hey, look, this is written in a style as a summary? See what I mean? You know, I'm not suggesting, well, let's just put summary at the top of the first paragraph of every page. Let's make sure it is a summary. It's not. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it going, oh, right, there's the summary? Or is it knowing from reading the paragraph that it is a summary? So
Or
you
not.
without writing the word summary. See what I mean?
I kind of think don't leave anything to chance. So put summary.
Do both. Put summary and then actually make sure it is.
Why risk it? Yeah.
Just the first paragraph. Okay. Yeah.
So what are you thinking? That there's a shortcut here that you just
copy and paste the summary.
Just put summary on every first paragraph.
Web pages. You know me, Jeff.
Yeah.
No. Obviously, both. Yeah. I mean, but just interested to see if that actual word summary is the first thing that it's looking for. It's kind of, where can I get a summary here? Oh, look, it says summary, so that's probably a summary. So it goes quicker there.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, we don't know of any hidden code yet to tell them in the background that this is a summary. I don't think that exists yet. But yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, so we talked about that chunking content. Oops. No, go back on myself. And that summary at start. So yeah. But a lot of this should be what we're doing anyway. The main change I would say is that summary. Okay. Okay, building high authority backlinks. So this links into what we talked about earlier, that ChatGPT is favoring large brands. And the reason it's doing this is it's getting into trouble, as I'm sure you've heard in the news, by giving wrong information, or it's even hallucinating or just making up facts. And so I think ChatGPT is kind of almost reverting to safety. So when it decides what content to put here, it's favoring like maybe content from the BBC, for example, or highly respected places. So what can we do as maybe smaller brands out there? Well, we really need to build up your domain authority more. So we're going to try the backlinks we build for you anyway. We're trying to get those on maybe higher authority sites, so that authority flows through to your website. The other thing to bear in mind is PR on your part. So part of this is actually getting referenced on news outlets, and that doesn't necessarily have to be the BBC. To build your brand, it could be, for example, you might have some information. Say you're based in Surrey, that you could issue a press release out to the Surrey Gazette or someone like that, and a link on a local publication to like that could also help your ChatGPT visibility. Or there may be an industry publication. So Mark, for example, you're kind of in the travel industry. There might be a new product you've launched, say in Madrid or Lisbon, and that gets published on their digital thing, and there's a link back. Things like that could also help. We're all in different industries, but it's just worth bearing in mind. Okay, so there's longer term stuff going on here that we need to start working on. So one of those is, of course, we've talked about adding that summary to new content, but for a lot of you, you've got this wealth of, this is for one of our sites, 200 blog posts going back, how many years, 2, 3, 4 years. We need to work out how we can quickly add a summary to a lot of those, because that feels like really quite a quick win. If you've got this content that's already out there and written, you've done 90% of the work. It takes an awful lot sometimes to write a good blog post. We're looking at how we could maybe semi-automate that for you to try and get that ranked on ChatGPT as well. I think that's surely a quick win. Another one is building assets. So at Brighton SEO, there was a guy there that was getting very, very, very upset that ChatGPT was stealing his web traffic, based on what we've just talked about. And he said, well, what happens if we can build on our websites assets, as he called them, that ChatGPT can't steal? So people have to come to your website to use it. So what he was talking about there was things like calculators, right? So say you're a mortgage advisor, little calculators. How much can I borrow? Right, and you calculate that. How much do I need to earn for a property value? Travel X. Work out what your travel budget is. You put in how many people are going, how many days, and it gives you a budget. Stuff like that. At the moment, I don't think ChatGPT can steal. I mean, there's an argument to say it can probably tell you that information by you asking it anyway. But that was one working theory, that if you put tools or calculators on your website, that could be quite sticky traffic, people that have to come to your website to use those. And then there's share of voice reporting. So we already on some of your reports this month, we are now reporting to you on what traffic comes to your website from AI, right? So, Mark, I hope you're okay. This is yours. You can see how many people come to the website. So all this is Google Analytics traffic, and then we filter it by, the AI tools, and you can see the numbers coming in. So in November, that was about 45. What's really striking here is just how dominant ChatGPT is. Just massively dominant, right? There's hardly any of the others. So we know what's coming out of ChatGPT, but what we really need to start reporting to you on is really, we don't think we'll be able to tell you what keywords properly, but we should be able to, for a range of prompts, work out what your share of voice is. I think that we're going to be talking about, if we, for example, Egypt Escapes, says a client, their share of voice is 12%, and then we can then start using that data to then report into you and work out how we're going to increase your share of voice for a range of different prompts that people are putting into ChatGPT, different keywords. That, looking at what people are doing, seems to be the way forward. So keywords and a ranking for each keyword will not happen. It just doesn't work that way. But we can certainly start looking at things like your share of coverage on ChatGPT. I think that is definitely something that's going to be happening. And then finally, more schema. So schema is hidden code that goes onto a website that tells Google about you. So it could be what type of business you are, where you're based, what your opening hours are. We've been doing that for years anyway for SEO. It's certainly something we just need to do more on, basically. That's it. Any questions?
Can I ask, Jeff? So you mentioned ranking for keyword will not be easy to analyze as much as share of coverage.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't mean keyword, decisions about thinking about, say, creating new pages and so on.
No.
The decisions about keywords are still obviously important. That doesn't mean you stop bothering about, repeating certain key phrases and stuff like that, presumably.
No, but I do wonder if it's because of the way people research more on ChatGPT, instead of just optimizing for, say, Stag Weekend, Lisbon, you're going to have to think about that whole body of content around that, and maybe lots more questions and answers.
Okay, so that's where
more
format and the schema and all that comes in.
Yeah, because I don't think many people would put Stag Weekend Lisbon into ChatGPT. They'd be hopping onto it and going, oh, maybe even before that, they might be going, well, where's the best place in Europe to have a stag weekend? This is the stuff I like. I like playing football and drinking beer.
And that's not just a sort of long tail keyword phrase.
You can argue it. Yeah, it is, but I suppose it's mega long tail, right? Some people, I can put several sentences into ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's what you were saying earlier about the actual conversation you have back and forward. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Anything else?
So where do you see Google fitting into this in the future? Do you think ChatGPT and AI will replace Google, or Google will just get smart with Gemini and stuff like it's Gemini, isn't it? Yeah. Because there's always going to be a shift in balance.
I think Google will be around, because I just think Google will lose its monopoly, right? And will just have to get found on lots of different platforms. I don't think it will be ChatGPT I don't think they'll be dominant forever. People are talking about Gemini in Google. The recent update was people are talking, saying it's really, really good.
Yeah.
So
that's the one that's got the sense of humour, apparently.
Oh right, is it? Okay.
Yeah, apparently.
Okay. Yeah. So I just think we can't just optimize just for Google anymore. Those days have gone. That's all. Yeah.
Okay, so and when if you use things like research, like you use your Ahrefs or your SEMrush to do research on other people's competitor websites, where's that going to fit in?
So we can understand what's happening on Google because they share it, but I think those tools will have a similar issue that we just talked about with, and there were all of these software companies at Brighton SEO, and they dearly wanted to give tools on AI, but they're really limited on what they can tell you because ChatGPT just won't share that information. You could argue as a user that's quite nice, right? It's a bit more private, but I don't know.
You can. I mean, it certainly helped us kickstart some competitor research that we were doing, but then it's the accuracy, because I still had to go back and check it all and look at other data sources to fill it in. So though it was a good starting point, I still spent a whole afternoon filling in the blanks. I guess it's early days.
I think we'll always need that human check, will we not?
I hope so.
Yes, so do I. Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay, it's really good food for thought, this. Thank you.
That's right. Any other questions?
I think I'm going to be going away and probably reading up a bit, and then Sam, when we have our next meeting, I'll probably be picking your brain.
That's fine.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay.
Okay, that's been really fascinating. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks a lot, Jeff, and a few points there that I'll be having a good think about as well.
Or some action points to go back and put summaries and all our content. Yeah. Great, thank you.
All right. Thanks for your time.
I'll video next.
Thank you.
And if you do have any questions at all, do drop us an email or phone call.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Bye.
All the best to all. Bye.